Good morning, and welcome to the session where we are going to be discussing the technology trends for the travel market. As it was already mentioned, my name is Vijay Gupta. I work for Adobe Systems. I look after our product and industry marketing for Adobe Marketing Cloud, which many of you know is a leading consumer engagement platform used by a lot of leading travel brands around the planet. However, this session is not about Adobe. It is about what's happening in your industry, and for that, we have with us Otto Rosenberger from Hostelworld. Before we get into the actual discussion, Otto, what I want to do is maybe give you a few minutes to give everyone an introduction about yourself as well as about Hostelworld.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for having me here. It's really good to be here. First of all, Hostelworld. So Hostelworld is a global leading platform for booking a hostel in the world. It's in 170 countries. It operates in 19 languages. We have 33,000 properties on the site, and we are on responsive web design. We have native iOS, native Android apps, and therefore we kind of operate in this niche. Founded 15 years ago, before the first .com boom, really, and went through quite a journey as a corporation, which ended up in last year IPOing. So we're now at the Dublin and the London Stock Exchange. I joined the business 2 years ago as CMO on the board, and I come from probably a varied background. In short, I had 10 years building brands for Procter & Gamble, so I'm kind of old school, and I need to stress that at the Digital Travel Summit. But then I moved into digital startups and worked in various online platform businesses like online dating, online gambling, and now it's online travel. And really for Hostelworld, it was all about it's a sleeping giant, really, and so we woke it up and put a lot of, over the last 2 years, build a lot of marketing and brand and scale into the business.
Fantastic. So thank you for that. This session, as you know, Otto, is about predicting the technology trends in the travel space. Now, most of you are aware that predictions are easy to make because nobody can hold you accountable, whether they come true or not. So what Otto and I were discussing yesterday was how do we kind of use a framework to think about what might happen in the future. And the way we want to do this is we want to talk about the Hostelworld story and see what's happening in their consumer segment, what's happening in that organization, and kind of see if we can glean insights from that about what might happen in the future in this space. Now, when we talk about technology, I think technology for technology's sake doesn't exactly work. I mean, it has to satisfy an end consumer, explicit need or a latent need. And one of the things that I was intrigued by is the customer segment that you target, that your business targets right now. And I was wondering if you could give us additional insights into the nuances of that, the behavior of that, and how you are kind of looking at the unique customer segment that your business focuses on, Otto.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. So first, you start at the customer. I think the Hostelworld customer is a pretty unique segment. We're very firmly millennial driven, so anybody born between 1980 and 2000, and therefore these guys are at the forefront of many of the tech advances. They're digital natives, and particularly if you think about travel, they're extremely social. So I'm sure you know the stats. 75% of Facebook posts are travel related. 6 out of 10 millennials take a recommendation where to go from their friends. So that's the first thing. That's really important. Secondly, they're mobile. So if you think about the Hostelworld business and millennials, we have 41% of our bookings come from mobile. Half of that is actually generated on the app. And if you compare that to classic OTA average, will probably be 20-25%. Then the third thing about millennials to know is they're all in for the experience, and that is where it becomes quite interesting. So when they travel, they want to collect immemorable moments. They're not in for souvenirs. They use a hostel as the social hub. Majority of our travelers are solo travelers. So that social environment that you find in a hostel is very important to them. And I think in that, they're also super passionate about travel. So they make more than 4 leisure trips a year, way more than the average tourist. And despite the fact they're on, their incomes are lower, they spend as much on travel than the average tourist. So that's quite, surprising even to me how passionate this young group is about travel. Obviously, they're more and more into the sharing economy, and we believe that as this millennial group moves on, they probably shape how travel will be done in the future. So I think from that point of view, we really had to adapt our organization massively to shape around that customer, to understand how they operate. And I think that probably starts very much in first and foremost understanding the experience they're looking for isn't necessarily our booking experience. So, online travel agents very focused on transactional, down the funnel booking experience. That's not what they're looking for. What they're looking for is the actual travel experience. So, for example, our brand positioning, Hostelworld, its slogan is "Meet the World," and that encompasses the entire experience. And it's an acknowledgement that as a company, as a brand, we're just a platform layer between the customer and the ultimate experience. And we see our supply, our hostels as truly as partners. We run one of the biggest hostel owners conferences every year. More than 600 hostel owners come to Dublin, for example. But we really work with them as partners, which I think is quite different how others would look at that space. So if you think about the experience, then, for example, just give you one example, then data to us is tremendously important in shaping and understanding the customer. So organizationally, we operate global teams. So, if you look at, we have a global brand team and a global acquisition team, global CRM team. But a couple of things that we did differently, I think, is we, like, whatever you call it, business intelligence, data science, these guys, right? They sit inside the marketing department as close to the customer as possible, merged together with customer insight team. So that's all in one space. And we certainly have a separate team that's marketing technology that truly looks at the tech stack and makes sure that is consistent and data is consistent across platforms, basically.
That's interesting. So what I'm hearing you say are a few things. Number one is that this whole thing about millennials, it is real. It's not a figment of imagination of marketers.
That's real, yes.
Okay, that's good to know. And the second thing that you're saying is this mobile thing has caught up and has become very important for that segment. And the third thing that I heard you say is around the fact that it does require your organization to get structured differently as you are coping with this emerging segment and the emerging technologies. And some of the things that you have done is you have brought in the business intelligence or data scientists closer to marketing, closer to the customers in that sense. And also you've got a marketing technology team which kind of looks at that. Okay. Now, in terms of being able to, and are these two things that allow you to be on top of what's happening in the world of travel technology? I mean, how do they help Hostelworld from that perspective?
So I think over the last couple of years, there are many, especially in the realms of data and data science, we move more and more of that in-house. And if you think about paid search campaign, if you think about social media, community management, all of that, we use very, very few agencies or marketing services partners because we believe that we need to control the entire flow of our data, firstly. But secondly, we are also the only ones who understand the true value of the customer to us. And we want to hold on to that. Now, what that means is that then when we look at who we partner with, these need to be partners who are very high on tech, very high on the understanding that we need to own our own data flow, but can support that, right? And I think, and then in terms of digital, this is quite an important point in my mind, is we look at that as an enabler. And obviously, if you look at marketing, there are two things to this, right? There's a cost side, you need to acquire customers, there's a certain cost efficiency, and then you have the brand side. And both things are extremely important, actually, today. And what we did is through becoming very efficient at say, the acquisition game or the CRM game, where, we moved through, Omniture tech stack, we linked that in with Adobe campaign management system and a media optimizer, and obviously we're working very well together here. What that allows us is to lower to increase our cost efficiencies, lower our cost per booking, for example. That frees up cash that we can use then to build out our brand. And so understanding this sort of, and if you build out the brand, that becomes ever more efficient. All your digital channels become more efficient, and whilst you can prove that in ROI models, right? Certain belief is also that you need to have. So it is important to have a very clean, good, and strong tech stack to actually enables you to do some very creative stuff on the other side, and therefore deliver a business where it has a very strong brand and very scalable digital channels.
So if I were to kind of summarize that, essentially the way you are looking at it, and if I bring it back to being able to predict the technology trends, what I'm hearing you say is that specifically for your organization, you're bringing in some of the key capabilities in-house.
Yes.
Using technologies, a tech stack, an integrated tech stack to enable those key business processes which allow you to be more efficient and effective in your marketing operations. Is that what you're kind of seeing happen in the industry?
And then what it also allows you to do is to become quite, to actually move into the customer experience. So the next thing then on the list is you think about Hostel and Hostelworld and what's our role in the customer experience. And I think years back our role was to make sure you get the booking and there's availability on the site and you can book a hostel, right? Today actually our app, and we are trialing that out at the moment, but our app actually changes when you made a booking. So rather than continuously trying to have a search box and sell you on the next booking, when you actually in the trip, doesn't make sense at all. And so when you made a booking, it now changes and says, all right, let me give you some useful information. First you have your booking confirmation, that would be good on your app. Secondly, here's the weather of today. Here are some attractions, top 3 attractions you can look for. Here are the restaurants and the pubs and the bars in your local area that are tailored to the budget traveler, as a free independent traveler. But if you think about London, hostels here in central locations, Generator in Bloomsbury, and so on and so forth. Choosing the right restaurants, because inside a mile, I can get you a lot of restaurants that are Michelin star, right? But that is probably not the right experience, right? Because these customer looks for a local experience down the local pub, and we can provide that. That makes sense to the customer, and that uses data, I think, in a useful way, without sort of being creepy, I guess.
So this is going back to the point with which we started. I mean, you're starting with the customer or the consumer, their need, latent or explicit. Then you're using, your organization, data plus content plus technology to kind of deliver personalized and relevant experiences. So that's where technology is helping you. That's where your org structure is helping you deliver that.
Absolutely.
Great. Now, we can keep talking about this through the rest of the day, but what I want to do is also give the audience a chance to ask a few questions. Before I do that, you have been, as you said, an old school marketer, brand marketer with a very large company before. You've worked with startups. You're now with online, travel space. What are, from your experience, 3 things that the audience should absolutely take away with them today, based on what you have seen and how things
Well,
are evolving?
so I'll come back to a couple of things. I still, even talking to to people, colleagues in the industry, I still think be very, very vocal about the customer experience, and be very vocal when it's not right. And I think, and it doesn't matter if it's your own patch or what you're responsible for or somebody else's, right? If it is your company, your brand, your experience, and it isn't right, then you need to go and say, and you need to have the data, you need to have the demand or have the customer insight to that. But customer-centric means being actually really angry when it's wrong, right? And being really angry about it, right? And still, it's a bit like, oh well, we can't fix it. It's too many properties. It's the algorithm, whatever. It's like, who cares? What the customer sees is really important. Any of the PowerPoint presentations I get or I write, they make no sense. They are not really relevant or important. What the customer sees every day is really important, right? So I think that would be the first point. So be angry. It's good to be angry. But the second is, I think, in the journey, so Hostelworld, and even before in startups, and you have to look forward. And particularly, this is a very young industry, and people forget that even though Booking.com is 20 years old, right? That's still very young. Procter & Gamble was founded in 1836, so but it's still very young. Brand marketing was invented in 1915, right? And so look forward and do not dwell on the past, right? Because that's never going to help. And organizations will change. So the organization implemented at Hostelworld today, it will be different in 3 months' time, in 6 months' time, in 9 months' time. It will continuously change because it has to adapt to where the market moves. For example, one of our biggest growth markets is Asia. That will shape how we deliver the service in the future. Very different conditions across China, across Taiwan, Thailand, South Korea. So South Korea, we just launched, and we're learning every day how that works, and certainly that will shape how we deliver service in the future. So kind of look forward and don't dwell on the past. And I think the second thing is, and obviously that's my classic brand, training, brands absolutely matter, but brands and product today are just one thing. And it used to be that you had, your brand director and your brand marketing campaign, and then there's the product. That thing now is a complete loop. And the more you need to unite the two. And your product experience is actually your brand experience.
Okay.
And how you then communicate that to the outside world obviously dramatically changes with, mobile and content and so on. So but that matters.
So in summary, be angry, look forward. Product and brand, there is
Yes.
no differentiation between the two anymore.
Exactly.
Fantastic. Do we still have time for audience Q&A?
I'm afraid we don't, but are you guys staying for coffee?
We are, yes.
Great,
We are.
well then everybody can talk to you out there and give you a bun as well at the same time. So ladies and gentlemen, please give Vijay and Otto a huge round of
Thank you very much
Thank you.
for your time.
Cheers.